All right, so tonight is about building our retirement plan. This is one of my favorite ones, is where I get to be very nerdy as an advisor, money manager. But hopefully it will help make it all make sense to you. All the components to it, you think about taxes, investment returns, income, annuities, pensions, all of that stuff hopefully will start to make sense for you. That's my goal. And then how do we become extremely, extremely efficient with our money? Okay? So first I do have an announcement. I'm pregnant. I am due end of January 23rd. We don't know what it is yet. We'll find out in 2 weeks. But I also want people who were with me when I had Andy know I really don't take a maternity leave. I'm out for a few weeks, but there's also all the back office support. So the club will go on, my work will go on, no matter what. And so I do want to let you ladies know that I am 4 months pregnant right now. So if I take breaks for water, it's because I'm extremely dehydrated lately. All right. So now let's get into the nitty-gritty. So I was doing a similar presentation for a money coach. So she doesn't do anything with investments, but she needs somebody to pass her clients onto once they get their day-to-day money habits in order. And I pulled the screen up like this, and she was, even herself, and she used to be an advisor, like, it is so overwhelming. You can see, there's so many pieces to it. We really want to keep it simple and dumb it down. It doesn't need to be complicated. You don't need to have this holier than holy of girl retirement plan. It needs to just work for you. And I've been really thinking about this concept because I know personally I want a simple life. That doesn't mean I don't have big goals and dreams and I'm not determined and ambitious. It means I don't want things to get more complicated than they need to be, and I don't want to get distracted by stuff. And that's exactly what happens with retirement planning. We overcomplicate it and we get distracted. We get distracted by what our neighbors are telling us to do, what our parents told us to do, what we read in articles. We can get very distracted and overwhelmed by all the information. So I'm here to tell you, let's keep it simple tonight. Let's go through this and just write down anything that you are thinking of that you want to talk more about. And that's what we'll address during our in-person thing. How is this all going to apply to you? Cool? So when we think about what goes into a retirement plan, and this is for the money, right? We have our income, expenses, taxes, inflation, assets, withdrawal rates, investment returns, required minimum distributions. Oh my goodness, so many things. And I know they tend to be very dry and boring, not fun. So instead of looking at all the pieces together and lump summing them all together, let's pick them apart. And I look at, okay, what is working for you in retirement and what is working against you in retirement? So whoever just joined, we're going into all the factors of retirement planning. So let's think about what works for us in our day-to-day lives, okay? Just in basic life in general, what works for you? Okay, well, if I work out every day, or not every day, I work out on a normal basis, that's working for me. It's going to help my health. It's going to help my money because my health won't cost as much. It's going to help my energy to get more things done, right? Let's think about the same thing with our money. So obviously income is always working for us, right? Hopefully. We have different sources of income once we hit retirement. And the more income we have, they did a study, happy retirees have 3 to 4 sources of income. When you think about it, that's because the more income we have coming in, the more secure we feel. The less we're dipping into our investments, the less we're fearful of running out of money in retirement because we're dipping into them so much. Okay, so the more income we can build, the better. And I work with some women, and even 2 women in this club are business owners. You can get income from selling your business or residual income. That's what advisors do. In my world, when you sell your book, you basically get a pension from whoever buys your book. kind of what my dad's planning on when he retires. He'll get money from my brother and myself to buy him out of the business, basically. So we have Social Security, pension. Who is on in our club that will get a pension? I don't think anybody will get a pension, or maybe just a small pension. Income gains from investments, part-time job consulting. Oh, that's right. I was just thinking about you, Amy, if you do. You're one of the lucky ones. Amy gets a pension. Rental income, passive income. Okay? So rental income. You can buy a property, something my husband and I just did, and we're going to get rental income from it. So we're going to get income now, and ideally by retirement, it will be paid off because of all that rental income. So we're basically building into an asset while getting income from it now. Okay? Obviously, that can take on. You're taking on a burden at first, but we have plenty of time for it to hopefully be profitable. Part-time job consulting. Who here is going to do part-time job consulting? A lot of women like the idea of, okay, maybe I'll transition into retirement. I will slowly get out of the workforce when I hit retirement. And it's nice because you still have a paycheck coming in. You might even get some health benefits until you hit 65 and go on Medicare. It can be a really smoother way than just leaving cold turkey. But I also see the other side where some women are just so burnt out that they need time. And they give themselves 6 months, they give themselves a year, 2 years, and then they say, okay, do I really want to jump back into the workforce? Am I still relevant? Are my skills still relevant? Or they make a hobby, they turn a hobby into a side hustle, into a business too. So a lot of different ways to go about that. Okay. What's working against you? So unfortunately, there are more things working against us than for us. Okay, so hold on. Do we go through all of them? Yeah. What's working against us? Inflation. And unfortunately for retirees, because healthcare is such a big piece of our expenses, retirees' inflation is higher. It's more because healthcare inflation is 5%, regular inflation is 3%, retirees' inflation is probably more around the 4%. So we have taxes. I was just working with a bunch of women who are going through a divorce, and taxes is such a big piece of that. And the one woman wants to buy out her husband from the marital home and use retirement money for that. I'm like, no! I'm like, this will not be in your best interest. You are trading retirement money for present day money. You have to pay taxes on it. She's not 59 and a half, so she'll have to pay a 10% penalty on it. I'm like, you'll have to take out so much more money just to stay in the home. Is that really worth it to you? And I think I got through to her. She's like, let's do a call. But in retirement, a lot of money gets taxed. Expenses, high withdrawal rates. So what's a withdrawal rate? That's the percentage, the amount of money that you take out of your investments, your portfolio, your retirement accounts in total. So if you take out $40,000 a year and you have $1 million saved up, that's a 4% withdrawal rate. And we'll look at that more, and I'll break it down for you. But just to give you an idea, when I go talk about withdrawal rates, retirees are taking out an extremely high withdrawal rate these days. And we see it, we talk to advisors all over the U.S. They're being very aggressive with how much money they're taking out. And that's a big risk to running out of money. That's a big risk of outliving your money. Okay, investment losses. A big reason retirees want to work with us is so that we help to manage, protect against investment losses, against downturns in the markets, against the financial crisis happening again, because it will happen again. Longevity. So who knew a risk was living too long? But when you look at money, living too long can work against you. And long-term care costs. Going back to staying healthy, part of why I have Kat Secor be a part of our club, and we partner with her for it, is because of long-term care costs. The healthier we are, the better it is for our money. That's the bottom line. Okay. And then I look at what's in our control. And again, I keep thinking of these women who are going through a divorce just because the last 2 weeks I've met with about 3 of them. And I keep going back to them saying, well, what's in our control? And the one is really fixated on her soon-to-be ex's pension. I'm like, you don't have control over the pension. You don't have control over the company, if they're going to change the pension, if taxes are going to change on it, or the payout, and if he dies before he starts taking the pension, there's no pension at all. Like, let's focus on what's in your control and get you a settlement where we can control as much of the risk as possible. Same thing with retirement. Let's focus on what can we control, what stresses us out, and I know I am guilty of this. When I try to control things out of my control, that stresses me out. And I can see myself. When I'm trying to, I get fixated on a certain outcome that isn't in my control, it stresses me out. And same thing with retirement plans. So let's look at what do we have control over. We always have control over our expenses. We choose every day where to spend our money. Nobody tells us to have this big mortgage. Nobody tells us to have this car. Nobody tells us to go on all these trips. That is always our choice, and we always can make changes to it. Okay. What's in our control? Part-time income, right? We can choose to work or not work. Usually, unless health, there's a reason with health. Passive income, right? Having rental property, that type of stuff. Or residual income from a business, right? Usually we have some control over that. Okay. So gaining clarity, what are our top spending priorities? And this is where I'm going to give you guys a minute or two to go through this. Take out a pad, take out your notebook, or bring out your phone. What are your top spending priorities for retirement? Okay, and this can be housing, this can be travel, it can be, what are the other big ones I say? It can be giving back, charity, it can be, let's see, what else will we spend money on in retirement? Health, long-term care, it can be education. So what are your top spending priorities? Is it to buy a boat one day or take a river cruise, right? Do cooking classes. So for once you write your kind of your retirement goals, prioritize them, and I want you to think about what is the dollar amount going to be for each one. And try to be conservative with this. Right? Let's be realistic with it. Okay. So let's take a minute to do that. Okay, so now we have our priorities, now we have our dollar amounts. Think about what are your recurring expenses and how much of your income goes just towards recurring expenses. And I see this with some women, they come to me and they go, I'm always in debt, or I can't do all the things that I want to do. And we look and I say, well, 80% of your income is going towards housing maintenance, utilities, all that stuff. So there's very little room for anything else. And we have to get super clear on what is our life actually costing them. So the quickest way, we can think of what are our recurring expenses. You might have a mortgage or rent, property taxes, utilities. You can think of food. That's pretty recurring. Food should be about $50 to $70 a person per week, depending on how organic you go, how special you go with it. Okay, so that's kind of a good number to use. So think of what are your recurring expenses? And plan B expenses. So let's say something happens and you can't afford your dream retirement. What's plan B? And I kind of always have this in the back of my head with my family and myself. So like, okay, something happens. What are the quick expenses we can get rid of right away that would really redirect us, reroute us, or save us? And it could be downsizing. It could be selling one of your houses. It could be traveling every other year. Okay. What are some plan B expenses? So something happens and maybe you're forced to retire earlier than you planned. And you lose out on a few years of saving money. Now we need to rework the plan. And I've seen this happen a lot where health takes us out, and this is something that I've been talking about a lot, retirement isn't always on our terms. We don't always have control over when we retire as much as we'd like to. And I've seen where health takes us out of the workforce, or caretaking takes us out of the workforce, taking care of a spouse, a parent, a child. Industry changes. You lose your job. You're in between jobs a lot. So having a plan B, and I've had people come back in, okay, let's rework it, okay? This isn't going to happen like we thought, like we expected. Now we got to rework our plan a little bit. I had one woman come into my office. She goes, okay, plan A is this, plan B is this, plan C is this, plan D is I just live with my one daughter. So she had 4 plans. But having a plan B kind of always also gives you that security. Just like for myself, I'm like, okay, I can find X amount of money just by cutting out these things that we don't necessarily need. We can rework, or we can do it cheaper and stuff. Okay, so understanding the math. So let's think about, we're going to kind of piece down the different components we talked about before and see how is it affecting you and your money and your retirement plan in the end. Okay, so how does inflation affect your income? So the bank pays you 1%, right? Pretty typical right now. Interest rates are extremely low. They've been low for a very long time. And inflation is 3%. So your overall return is negative 2%. This is why I'm so against keeping a ton of money in the bank. Yes, keep money in the bank, but we don't want it so that we are losing money. We're losing money each year, right? It's slowly eating at our money. So if your investments earn 5% and inflation is 3%, then your overall return is 2%. Okay? So inflation is there. We don't necessarily see it all the time. You might see it when you go grocery shopping. You'll see it with your property taxes. Okay? But it is there. So when we are managing your money and investing your money, those are things that we look at and are thinking about. So give you an example. I have one woman, she was in my Strong Retirement Club, the first one, and she had, how much did she have? About $200,000 in the bank, just sitting there. Okay, so we were going through this, and I said, you really have 2 things working against you. One, inflation is growing more than your money, so you're slowly losing your money each year. And 2, that little 1% you do earn, you're paying taxes on. So your overall return is actually worse than negative 2%. Okay. So my goal is to look at, okay, so if we have 2 things working against us, let's find an investment where we can have 1 or more things working for us. And for her, we found an investment that had 4 things working for us. So it was a swing of 6 components, right? Negative 2 things working against her to 4 things working for us. Okay. The investment offered, it was extremely tax efficient. It grew by at least inflation each year. Okay. It protected with longevity risk, and also actually had a lot more things working for it. It helped manage market volatility, and it protected the risk of needing long-term care down the road. Okay, so that's 5 things working for it instead of 2 things working against it. That is the type of swing we want to see with your money as we apply these things. Okay, so for a lot of you, we are starting to do this because this is a new a new way that I'm managing money that's been extremely beneficial, and we're going to start applying it to all the women that I work with, starting with my club members first, because you guys get to see behind the scenes of how we come up with it. Cool? So let's talk about how do investment returns affect your income. So if you earn 5% on your assets and you withdraw 5%, you break even, right? And this is why we see a lot of retirees, they'll call us up and say, you know, the markets are up, but I don't see my account moving up. And we tell them, well, if you are we're earning 5%, but you're still withdrawing 5%, you know, we should be keeping even. We're not really growing, okay? If you earn 7% on your assets and you withdraw 5%, you earn 2%. So it's going up a little bit. And again, we have the same conversation with retirees. But my accounts aren't as up as much as the market. So we say, well, we're taking out money, so we can't be up quite as much as the market. If you earn 3% on your assets and you withdraw 5%, you're in the negative, right? -2. Simple, simple math, but it's things we don't think about when we just look at the statement each month, okay? Or when we look at their overall portfolio each year, okay? Now, how does tax affect it? Okay, so going back to those withdrawal rates that we just saw, okay? But a lot of people forget is that we withhold for taxes. We make it like a paycheck for you, so it's very simple. You don't have this huge tax bill at the end of the year. We're taking out for taxes, federal, state, whatever, each time you take out money. But you kind of forget about that extra money we're taking off the top, kind of skimming off the top to hold aside. It's going to the IRS. So it kind of becomes invisible, and we don't think about it. But our job, my job, is to always make sure that no matter how much we're taking out, including those tax withholdings, we're in the safe zone, right? The safe zone is about 4, 5, maybe 6% withdrawal rate, okay? So here's an example. We withdraw $3,000 per month with $1,200 being withheld for taxes. Your account size is $600,000. You are withdrawing a net amount of $36,000, right? 3,000 times 12, or 6%. But you're withdrawing a gross amount of 8.4%, right? Because of that extra money being withheld for taxes. So I tell people in retirement, I have one woman, and every time we talk, because her withdrawal rate is way too high. So my job is to remind her it's too high. You're going to run out of money unless you change something. And I'd say just lowering your withdrawal amount a little bit, you make out so much better because you're also lowering your withdrawal rate, your percentage for the taxes too. Okay, so here are the income tax rates for retirees. I'm going to save this for our in-person event. Okay, require minimum distributions. Okay, so here these begin at age 70 and a half, where the IRS forces you to take money out of your retirement accounts. Okay, so they look at what is your account value on January 1st of that year, and the first year you have to take out 3.65%. And it slowly goes up each year, as you can see, right? Until you hit 115, when they force you to take out 52.63%. Okay? It is your responsibility to make sure this money comes out. And when it doesn't come out, it's a 50% penalty. 50% penalty. So if you're forced to take out $10,000, you don't do it, you have to take out $15,000, right? $5,000 is going right to the penalty, and then probably another $3,000 to $4,000 is going towards taxes. So out of $15,000, you're going to net about $6,000, right? So it's very important. That is our job when you work with us, to make sure this gets done. We have our birthday list, and we know exactly who's turning. We look at who's turning 69, so we stay on top of it. We meet with you. We figure out how do we want to take this money out, right? We can be a one-time thing. It could be over the course of the year. Some people use it when they have a big trip coming up or a renovation, a big expense. Okay, so it is something. Now, why do the IRS force us to take money out? Because they want their tax money. Otherwise, retirees can just keep their money in tax-sheltered accounts until they die. So you have time until 70 and a half when they force you to take money out. Cool. Okay. Investment priorities. So when we think about managing our money, there really are three different types of people. There's the risk avoider, who hates any type of risk. And we see this especially in retirement. You might be very aggressive while you're earning money, and then all of a sudden you get that deer in the headlights with risk. It's like, no, I can't let anything happen to my money. We have one woman, and whenever there's the slightest pullback, she reaches out to us. What's the plan? What's going on? What do we need to do? It could be 1-2% pullback. In the markets, not even in her accounts, just in the markets. She's a risk avoider. We have to manage and protect and be as conservative as possible with our money. So if you are a risk avoider, you want to stick with as many guarantees, like guaranteed annuities, as you can. You're going to be very income driven. Social Security, you might want a part-time job. You're going to want to build up your income base as much as you can so that you don't have to rely on the markets, if that makes sense. The problem with money is there's always an upside and a downside. So remember that our job is to make sure the upside outweighs the downside risk. And there is a risk. How do we manage that risk? How do we protect against it? How do we neutralize it, basically? Okay? Then there's a risk taker. I am very much a risk taker. I get very aggressive with the money, but I do it knowing my husband and I are doing everything possible to save for retirement. So I'm doing it kind of with a different mindset, knowing no matter what happens right now, our future is kind of set. It's all knocked down. We've got it covered. But again, we're young. So it's risk takers kind of change as they approach retirement. And they view investments differently. They view pullbacks differently. I view pullbacks as an awesome opportunity. I welcome the pullbacks. Like I think I'm crazy. I'm like, we need these pullbacks. This is great. This is where we make money. When you see it and you have $1 million, $2 million saved up, you start to look at it differently. And it really comes down to the dollar amounts, right? So risk taker is fine with investing in stocks, investing in startups, investing in new businesses, okay? And a business can be a great retirement income stream. I have one person, he actually partnered with my husband's buddy from high school to open up a gym right in my town, and I love it, and I see him there all the time now. He's an extremely successful guy. I think he's just really bored in retirement, so this has become his new baby. And the gym's doing extremely well. He's used his experience from growing other businesses to this. He's mentoring, so he has a lot of purpose in his life, but he's also getting good income from it. He's a risk taker. Not everybody has a stomach to open up a business in retirement. And then we have risk managers, which is probably where most of you fall into. Okay? Somewhere on the spectrum, a manager will take on some risk, but it's calculated risk. It's understanding how are we managing the risks. So let's say you're okay being in the stock market, but you know, okay, there is a strategy if the markets go down. There is an exit strategy. I might be invested in the markets with a portion of my portfolio or my money, but the other portion is all income driven. It's all in bonds. It's in an annuity, or it's in something that is more conservative and safe. So I'm fine taking on risk with a portion of the money because I know my other money is pretty set. Okay? So think about, where do you think you fall? Right? Taking on risks, does that scare the crap out of you? it's good to know that. I need to know that so that we don't build you a plan where you can't even sleep at night, that you're terrified with every pullback, you don't know what to do. All right, so you're a risk avoider. Are you a risk taker? Are we not building in enough risk into your portfolio? Okay. Or you're a risk manager where we just need to make sure we're very balanced in our approach. So with risk, like I said, there's different forms of investments, different ways. There is risks out there. Our job is to look at, okay, if there is a risk, like things that could work against us, how do we manage them? How do we protect against them? Okay. So going back to that one example where I used Lon from our first retirement club, where she just had money sitting in the bank, and we had 2 things working against her, and we got 5 things working for her. Well, that was a type of investment to help manage risk for her. Okay, so it was a type of annuity, and the type of annuity was it would go up by at least 3% each year, tax deferred. None of that gain was taxed to her. If she went into a long-term care facility or even needed home health care, it would pay her out 3 times the value of her, whatever the value was at that time. So say it was worth $100,000, it would pay her $300,000, and all that money would be tax-free income to her to help pay for long-term care costs. Okay, so that covered a lot of risk. One, it's money that's working for that's not tied to the market, right? So it helps to manage the market volatility. It helped manage the cost of long-term care down the road. It helps with the risk of inflation eating away at her money. It helps with the risk of taxes eating away at her money. And it also helps with longevity because, fortunately, women tend to live longer. And because of that, we need long-term care more likely. And say she never needed long-term care, she could take the money out of the annuity. She could annuitize it and get income for the rest of her life. So like I said, it really helps with longevity on a few different ways. Okay, so that's an example of how risk, we can manage it. We can protect against it as much as we can. And then there's also different forms of income. Like we said, we can generate income from investments. We can generate income from your job, from a real estate property, or from a business. There's so many different ways to earn income. And sometimes this is even thinking outside the box. Okay? So we're going to go into a little bit of estate planning now. Okay? Because it does go hand in hand. Right? I was talking with a woman earlier today, and I said to her, you do your will now before retirement. But once we do the planning and we can kind of project out to see how much money you're really going to have, it's going to make you rethink what you have in your will. And you're going to think, okay, if my money grows even more, and now I have $1 million, a few $1 million, do I want my kids to receive all that money at once? Or do I want my heirs to receive all that money? Or maybe they don't need the money. Maybe they're successful on their own. Is there other places that you can have that money go that leaves an even bigger legacy? Especially if you don't have kids. Okay, how do I make the most of all this money that I've worked so hard to save up for? Okay, so it does go hand in hand with the retirement plan. So who needs one? Well, everybody has an estate no matter what. And it really just gives you kind of control instead of leaving this huge mess to your heirs. I had one woman join in our last club, and one of her motivating factors for joining the club and getting on top of everything was, she goes, I don't want to get hit by a bus and it's just this huge hot mess for whoever is left to take care of it. She was single, she didn't have kids. She said, I don't want to just leave that to my family. I don't want that to be the lasting memory of me, is there's a mess I just left them. Right? It's like somebody walking into your house and you're not there and it's just a tornado went off. She didn't want that to happen. Okay. And how often do we update them? Update really when your situation has a drastic change. And it doesn't mean a whole new will needs to get drafted. Usually it's just a codicil, they call it. a new page that adds in maybe you bought a new property, or maybe one of your heirs passed away, or whoever you wanted to be the executor to run your estate, go through the directions of your will, you don't trust them anymore, or your relationship changed, or maybe if they're not good with money, and you're like, I don't want them touching my money then. Okay, your children getting married or having grandchildren, all those things are going to make you want to change and update your will too. And I've also seen as parents' children or even nieces and nephews, as they start to get more settled, established, and successful, I see them thinking, I don't need to leave them as much money. They're pretty set. Maybe I want to spend more of my money, or maybe I want to find a different cause for my money too. Okay. Power of attorney. So this is extremely important. This is so important. And I think I've shared with you all about my uncle who's in California, and his wife found him on the floor with his skull cracked open one morning. He must have had a stroke, and he was in a coma for about 3-4 weeks, unresponsive. He finally came out of it, and he's only in his early 70s, in very good health too. But he lost, after he came out of the coma, about 20 years of his life in his memory. Okay, so his wife is his second wife. He thinks they're engaged, and he's not sure if he wants to go through with it or not. That's the state of mind he's in right now. So he's in a nursing home. Even though he's been working with my dad as their advisor for years, and for years my dad's been telling them to get a power of attorney, they never got it done. So what happens now is, even though he's married, his wife still doesn't have control over what goes on. So she had to go to the court, apply for guardianship. They had to get 2 doctors to say, yes, he cannot make decisions on his own. So she can now manage the money, take money out of the account to pay their bills, all that stuff. But whenever she spends money, she has to report it to the court. So it's a complete nightmare for her, and it's so much more work. It's such a hassle for her to have to do this. And again, they weren't that old. They were both in good health. They liked to have fun. He was still working. He actually, ironically, worked for a group of nursing homes. He did HR for a group of nursing homes. So she now has to always go back to the court to justify whenever she makes changes with their money. She wants to sell her house. It's going to be very hard for her to sell her house because she doesn't have power of attorney over it. And what's even sadder is they both have children from previous marriages. So all the money right now is basically going to go to the nursing home. And whatever is left is going to go to her children because they didn't have wills or anything set up to protect his money, to make sure his money goes to his sons. Okay. And how often to review them? Well, you want to review them whenever you want to change who your power of attorney is. But you also want to review, get them updated, just a new date on them, about every 2 years. There is so much elder abuse out there. I think last year was like $3 trillion of elder abuse fraud. And that's why institutions, banks, financial institutions have gotten so critical about power of attorneys because of this elder abuse. So I know for Raymond James, if it's older than 6 months, they have another form for you and your power of attorney to sign saying that it's still in good order. Okay. So financial institutions and banks, they want it within 2 years. And I know attorneys, the one I'll put on here, she'll just update them every 2 years for you because she knows how much of a hassle it is. And once you get your power of attorney, you should send it to people who are managing your money, your bank, so they have it on hand. And the power of attorney, it's going to be a durable one where it only comes into effect when you mentally can't make a decision for yourself. Okay? And then we have living wills or healthcare power of attorneys. So a living will basically says, this is what I want to happen if I can't make a decision for myself regarding my health, right? If I'm in a coma, I've had a stroke, I'm in a coma now, do I want to stay on life support or not, basically. Healthcare power of attorney. This is naming somebody to make decisions regarding your health on your benefit. So for my grandmother, my dad was her financial power of attorney because he dealt with the money. My aunt, who was a nurse, was the healthcare power of attorney. So whenever my grandmother had to go to the hospital or needed a surgery, she was the one to consult with regarding what she wanted to happen to her. Okay? Whether to go with a surgery or to find another way to heal, medications, all of that stuff. Okay? And beneficiaries. So again, I keep thinking of these women going through a divorce and like your husband's on all of your beneficiary designations. That's something to get on top of right away, because I'm sure you don't want your soon-to-be ex to inherit all your money instead of your kids or whoever. So when to review them, divorce is a great time to review them. If you have more children or you change in for women without children, I see a lot of times they'll name their parents. That's usually the worst person to name, because if your parents, and again, Lon in our first club had this, she named her mom and her sister, and her mom wasn't in good health. And I said, well, if she inherits money, then all that money is going to be spent in a nursing home. Or what if the mom's already on Medicaid, and Medicaid's paying for her nursing home? Then she's going to get off of Medicaid because she's not going to qualify for it anymore because she just inherited a ton of money. So then it throws the whole process off and the paperwork, and it really just becomes a whole nightmare for her mom to have to deal with, and her mom's not in good health. So I said you can name a trust for your mom's benefit. You can have it go to your sister, the sister knowing it's to take care of the mom and stuff. So naming parents isn't in their best interest or your best interest or the family's best interest. I also see people without kids naming siblings. But again, at some point they're going to come up to that same risk of needing a nursing home. So you can name, again, a trust for their benefit. You can name the children. Right? If you have a sibling who is disabled or a child who's disabled, you need a special needs trust. So again, you don't throw off their state aid, their Medicaid eligibility, and it becomes a nightmare for them as well. Okay. And as, say, like tax law changes or trust law changes, right? That's a time to review them. That's our job, to stay on top of tax law changes, regulation changes, all of that. Okay. And talking about trust, we go into what are trusts. It's kind of like a big thing. I know my neighbors, they did the Susie Orman estate package. And they're like, can you come over to witness us signing these? I'm like, sure. So I went over. I'm like, you guys have a living trust. They go, really? What's in it? And I go, well, nothing. There's just a trust in your name, but you didn't put anything in it yet, and you don't need it. But it was because they used such a generic thing for their estate needs, it was just lumped into all the documents. So in case they wanted or needed it, it was there. Okay. So there are different terms for trust, I'll say. We have revocable and irrevocable. So revocable means I can change my mind. I put our house in a trust, and then tomorrow I'm like, we're going to take it back out of the trust. Okay? I can change my mind. I can put things in and out of the trust as much as I want to. Irrevocable means I put something into the trust, I cannot take it back out. There are no do-overs or no take-backs. Okay? Then we have a living trust, which means I create it while I'm living. Very easy. I create the Jessica Weaver Living Trust. It takes into effect, like my neighbors, right when the documents are done, and I put something in it. I can put my house in it. I can put different things in it. This is something that Christina and I have been working on for herself. And then there's a testamentary trust. So testamentary trust means it's a trust in our will. And my husband and I both have this. So if one of us passes away or both of us passes away, that is when the trust comes into effect, right? So our passing is what enacts the trust. And then through our will, different things are put into the trust, right? So you can combine them. You can have a revocable living trust. You can have an irrevocable living trust. You can, testamentary trust, well, it's not really revocable or irrevocable because you are no longer here when it comes into effect. So you can't really change your mind if you're already gone. Now, I was going to be interviewed on a TV show. Unfortunately, we had a family emergency and we had to reschedule it. But one of the questions was about trust. Why do people have them? Who needs them? And trust is what gives you, going back to control, trust is what gives you the most control over what's going on with your money, regardless of whether you are living or not living, if that makes sense. Trust will give you the most control over who gets what, when they get it, how much they get. You can outline to the T the terms of the trust. Okay, I know my dad always jokes that his trust for my brother and myself, basically we would get money at 25, at 30, at 35, at 40, 45. He goes, we basically give you a few different times to blow the money. And I like that, and I share that with people because what you do with money in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s are going to be completely different. Your priorities are different, your work situation is different, your family life is different. So for those of you who are leaving money to younger people, it's good to know, okay, they don't have to get $1 million or millions of dollars all at once. We can do it slowly so that they don't have all, and it's a really freaky moment if you receive that sum of cash all at once, right? I see two things. They either blow right through it because it's like, oh, this is newfound money, or they're terrified to do anything with it, okay? And we're going to go more into why would people do, say, an irrevocable trust versus a revocable trust. And that really goes all the way back to the health and long-term care planning, what we spoke about before. Okay. Exactly, kind of what we're leading into right now. So going back to my Uncle Bobby, who is in a nursing home right now. So what they're looking at doing is he can get Medicaid to pay for his nursing home care, but he can't have any money to his name. Okay, and survivor spouse usually gets to keep about $150,000 to their name. So say you have $1 million. Medicaid's like, well, you need to spend down all of that money so you just have $2,000 left, and then we'll pay for your care. Okay? So what people are doing is like, well, I'll just gift away my money. I'll just send it away. I'll give it. I'll put it in a trust and all stuff, and then I'll qualify. Well, Medicaid got smart, and they go, well, we're going to do a 5-year look-back period. And any money you gifted over the last 5 years will count, and you're going to have to foot the bill until you spend through that amount of money. Okay? Fortunately for my Uncle Bobby, because he's in California, they don't have that look-back period. New Jersey does. New Jersey, all the states around us, they do. So what people can do is be proactive, and while they're still in good health, they can open up an irrevocable living will, or living trust, sorry, that should be trust. They open up an irrevocable living trust, and they start putting their assets in there. Okay? It needs to be irrevocable. If it's revocable, it means the asset's still in your name, because you can take that money out at any point. Okay? So an irrevocable living trust. Okay, or you transfer the assets. You basically just need to get the assets out of your name. So it's something that we talk about as you come up to retirement. And we're going to have different times where we want to transfer different things into the trust. Give you an example. You hit retirement. Okay, now we might put your retirement home. Sometimes we move. Downsize, move out. Say, well, that's an easy one to put into the irrevocable living trust. Okay, there's no tax implications for it. You know, it's a very simple thing to do. It doesn't impact your day-to-day life at all. You get a little bit older, well, let's take some non-retirement money and put it in there. You never want to put retirement money in it because you have to pay taxes on it. Okay? And I'm actually doing this with an older woman. She's in her 80s, and her kids are like, let's Let's do something to protect this money because her husband left her $800,000 of Pfizer stock. So first we're offloading the Pfizer stock and diversifying her money just because we don't trust Pfizer. Who knows what could happen? There's a lot of risk to owning that much money of one stock. And then we're going to put it into an irrevocable living trust for the kids, knowing that if the mom needed money, the kids could get her the money, right? They're the trustees. They can get her the money. But at least that money wouldn't all go to a nursing home instead of to her children and grandchildren. Okay. So big thing to think about as we go into our in-person event. What is your top legacy priority? Okay. Do you have a legacy priority? Do you care? Is it leaving somebody something? Is it just like Joanne who doesn't want to leave a mess to everybody? Do you want it so easy that the executor barely even knows that they have to deal with an estate? And that might be a good priority for a lot of you. It's just making sure it's so clean, it's so organized, it's not complicated, right? We're going to keep it simple, like we talked about earlier in this. Let's keep it simple. Okay. Who is your top legacy priority? Is there somebody that you want to protect or make sure gets money or is taken care of if you're no longer here? Okay. Who is your top legacy priority? Maybe it's a child, maybe it's a special needs person who you know can't take care of themselves, so you feel that burden on you. Who is your top legacy priority? What has to happen to prioritize this person? Because if you don't have your estate documents in order now, you aren't prioritizing them, and that needs to change. Because if there's somebody that you care about, you need to prioritize them with your legacy. Okay? And who can help you? So who's going to be your next contact to make sure that your top legacy priority is taken care of, that person's taken care of, and you start taking action to prioritize this person. So maybe it's an estate attorney. Maybe it's to meet with me to talk it through. Maybe it is to talk it through or go to a workshop, get more educated, or just at our next event, bring it up, okay? So who can help you? Okay. Oh, February, I'm sorry. What's next one? Okay, so resources, estate attorneys. So these are 3 different attorneys that all do fabulous work. Linda Engelby is in Morristown. Gary Kornick is in Somerville. Colin Quinn is in Madison. Linda does a lot of estate planning, even elder care planning. Gary Kornick does a lot of elder care planning. Okay. Other options, Dawn and I were talking about this before, other options are LegalZoom, or they're also starting, some attorneys are making it very accessible to people to get their estate documents done, and they're doing these monthly legal memberships where you can go and get certain pieces done at certain times, kind of like workshops and stuff, okay? Now, I also want to talk about, we're talking about, you know, how do you feel secure in your retirement? That's what I'm like, where did these questions go? We missed these. These are things I want you to reflect on going into our next event. How will you feel secure in retirement? I had a strategy session with a woman, very successful, works at ADT, and she wants to retire in the next few years. And I was explaining to her that we build our whole plan around, okay, what are your top priorities in retirement? What's going to make you feel the most secure? Is it knowing you have guaranteed income coming in? Is it knowing that you won't deplete your assets by taking out so much money? Is it knowing there's an exit strategy if the markets go down? Is it knowing long-term care costs are taken care of? So I want you to think about what's going to make you the most secure in retirement. Not comfortable, secure. Because I want everyone to make decisions out of a feeling of security, of groundedness, of knowing they're taken care of. What has to happen to feel secure? Is it understanding things more? Understanding all that we talked about tonight? Is it making sure what we talk about tonight being translated with your money and how it's being managed. Is it talking with different professionals? Okay. What else needs to be done to feel secure? Okay. What are some other factors that need to feel secure? Is it knowing your legacy planning is all set? Knowing you have your power of attorney linked to all of your accounts. So if something were to happen to you, it is so easy for whoever needs to step in to take care of you. And then who can help? Is it an accountant? Is it myself? Is it a money coach, an estate attorney, an elder care attorney, or maybe even a health and fitness coach like Kat? A lot of times feeling secure is also feeling secure about ourselves, feeling secure about our health, that our health isn't going to fail us, that a health issue that you've been dealing with for the last few years, 10 years, 20 years, isn't going to affect how you live your life in retirement. And that's what I see people saying, I want to go on river cruises, but there's a lot of walking and my knees are bad, my hips are bad, I don't think I'll be able to keep up. Well, we don't want that to prevent you from being able to make a trip like that and to feel secure with your decision to make a trip like that. Okay, so how will you feel secure? What has to happen to feel secure? What else needs to be done? So what is left on your list? And I have all the club members from my first one. We have our list and we check in with them, the ones that are working with me as clients, and we're going to go through them. Okay, these are the things that still need to be done. It's not a race. We know it's on our agenda. We're working through them, right? Who can help? Okay. So yes, going into next month, September 17th, we have our workshop to follow this up, talk about all these things, do more hot seats, more one-on-one time with you guys. And then October 19th, we have our fall retreat. We are doing it at the Brave Heart Center. Dawn is hosting us. Dawn, who's part of our club, she has opened this amazing wellness center for women. It's going to be 10:30 to 2:30. RSVP now, because we are also selling tickets to this event. So if you know anybody who's interested too, let me know. You all get to bring one friend or family member, somebody to an event. This would be a great one for them to come to. If you have more than one person who wants to come, let me know. Only until September 1st, tickets are $50, and then they go up to over $200. Okay. So Coach Pat is going to be speaking about maintaining mobility, quality of life, and independence in retirement, which is so important. And also, one thing I never thought about, but she brought it up when she spoke to the first club, is not having other people worrying about you. I know that drives me crazy. I never want. I know my mom's always worrying about me. I don't want to feel her worrying about me. And that's what happens when we don't take care of ourselves, we don't take care of our health. People around us are worrying about us. And I know independent women, strong women hate that idea, that concept. The more we can get on top of our health and stay on top of it, stay ahead of it, the better. And Dawn is also going to take us through a meditation, introduction to it, go through the practice, and then I'm going to be going through the biggest retirement myths and how they are jeopardizing and how basically we're sabotaging, jeopardizing ourselves, and then talking about how do we retire on our own terms, right? Some stuff from my book, but also a lot of new stuff I'm really excited to share with you guys. Okay, so let me know. You can send it on the chat or send me an email once you know you can make it, because I want to make sure I reserve all of your spots first. All right, so thank everybody for coming tonight, right on time. And I can't wait to see everybody in September. I'll have a big baby bump by then. Yeah, if you weren't on the call earlier, I am pregnant. I'm 4 months pregnant. I'm due in January. So have a good night, everybody. Have a good Labor Day, and I'll talk to all of you guys soon. Bye.